Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Sagady, also known as the Commenting Collector. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Collector's Chat. My guest has been collecting cards around a half of a century. He creates videos, he's active on live streams as a guest and in the chats. He subscribes and comments on other people's videos. He shouts out other channels. His channel, A Collector's Dream, surpassed the 2,000 subscriber milestone. He is a YouTube card community ambassador. Welcome, Orlando. Hello.
Hey, Robert.
Hi.
Thanks for inviting me on. What a great introduction there.
Oh, I wasn't sure you could hear that. Oh, I appreciate that. I mean it. I really have been admiring you and your channel ever since I started my YouTube journey. So I appreciate meeting you in person virtually, I guess.
Yeah, virtually, but we do almost become friends just on YouTube and commenting and stuff like that. So even though it's the first time we talk in person, we kind of know a little bit about each other already. And that's why I'm here in the couch, because I watch your videos. I know you sit on the couch.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I figured I'd go ahead and dedicate this to you and do a couch talk with you this time.
I appreciate that, Orlando. As you can see by my background, you don't see all my display cases because I do my episodes off of my iPhone, but I'm doing this interview from my PC. So you see my living room back there. It's not quite as exciting, but it does the job. So again, I appreciate it. We're going to start. Well, this whole interview is just going to be fun, relaxed. We're just having a great conversation between two friends. And just to prove that point, we're going to play a game.
Okay, I'm ready.
I don't know.
Let's go.
I don't know if you've seen the other chats, but during our conversation, there's a secret word.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
And it's a word that's used in everyday conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say the secret word,
bring out the bird.
Here comes the duck. It has the secret word on it.
That's right. And I can't see the secret word.
Nope. But I do want the audience.
Oh. I know when you were talking to the Canadian, it was puck was the secret
That's
word.
Right. That's right. Yep.
So okay, so I'm not going to look.
Okay, thank you. So, for everyone out in the audience, here's the secret word.
Today's secret word is gum.
Okay, Orlando.
I'm back.
Thanks for indulging me. I appreciate that. And thanks for your loyal viewership that you've watched my other collectors chats. So that was with Rip, the puck one. Right. And then the first one was with Hugo. Yeah. And that was Sun. I think that was Sun.
It was Sun because of Florida. That's right.
That's right. And that's where you're also
I'm a friend of Hugo. I've met Hugo, and he's a great guy. Yeah.
He sure is.
I signed that bat. You also signed that bat.
Oh, that's right. Because you guys met at the Orlando show?
At the Tampa show.
Oh, the Tampa show. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we went to LouRok's house after the Tampa show, and I really got to know him pretty well there.
Yeah. Junior
Fanatic.
Yeah.
Liam.
Baseball Fanatic 12 was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mangini.
Yeah, Mangini was there. I've met Liam and his family more than once already.
Yeah, I have too. That's what's great about this community. Hey, before we move on, if you do indeed say that secret word, I'm going to give you a prize. So it's going to be a choice of, okay, I've got my standard 3D or 3 unopened non-sports packs. So the first one would be a Superman from the movie. The second choice, if you say the secret word, would be Elvis. and I think this is from the 70s. It's not. Are you familiar with this pack, Orlando? It's not like a
Elvis,
1950s. It's
no.
not a. It's not that old. It's more of a newer version, but now it's probably like 30 years old or so. So nice
Yeah.
unopened pack. And then the last one is Close Encounters.
Oh yeah, that's a good
And
one.
and every time I have this contest, Orlando, I try to make the giveaway prize something that the guest may not already previously owned. So you can imagine the challenge I had coming up with an item that you wouldn't own, because I feel like you have such a great collection that I don't know if I would have anything that you don't own. So I just found my trusty non-sports unopened packs. So do you own any of
Yeah.
these?
No,
Okay.
no. I do have unopened packs, but not
Yeah.
non-sports. Although I
Great.
do have non-sports, I do collect some non-sports, but not an unopened packs. So that will be my first one if I can get the word.
Awesome. And I've seen you do collect non-sports cards, and a lot of them are the real old vintage cards.
Yes, the old vintage, and also some, well, like Star Wars and stuff like that, which is still vintage because you're talking from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
But most of mine is very, very old, from the 1900s and
Mm-hmm.
they're the late 1800s. I just love the artwork on those type of cards, and the way that they're made. It's just not, these mass produced cards. A lot of those were printed, literally by hand. Some of those cards
Crazy.
in the 1800s, even before they had printing presses. So it's crazy, and just love the history of not just the sports but cards themselves. And since I previously was in the printing industry, it just it's interesting to me to see how it was done back then and then how it's done today.
Well, that's for sure. I know Tops, they kind of reinstated or reissued some of the Allen Ginter cards not too long ago, but Orlando was showing the original Allen Ginter
Yeah,
cards.
yeah, and also the Goodwin Champions. They also produced the Goodwin Champion set, which is really the one that I'm more focused on, because it's more of a full color back in the 1880s, 1888 actually. And those cards were literally, like I said, printed by hand. The actual images were carved on a limestone block, which was sanded down, and then the artist would actually carve the image of the person on that block, that
Oh,
limestone block, and then they would put the color on there, and then put that block on top of the paper, and the weight of that block on that paper, put the color, and then every color had to be done one at a time by hand. So, you're talking about, really, it was a work of art, and it
yeah,
was something that those cards back in those days, they took, uh, you know, weeks to produce. It wasn't like you could just go ahead and print it off your printer or anything like that. I
sure.
mean, it was, it was true artists, and even not just the artists, but the printing themselves. The printers were artists themselves because they had to
Mm.
match them up and register everything. You know, all the registration had to be done. Measuring and by sight versus just nowadays. So it's just, to me, I just love the history of
Yeah,
cards themselves. So I really, I've been collecting, like you said, over 50 years, and
right.
for me, it was just a kid, like everybody does. But I kind of went further back, and the more I learned about the older cards, I kind of got deeper into the older ones, and the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, and then all the way back to the 1800s. And it's just fascinating, knowing that a lot of the sports. I mean, baseball is over 150 years old, but you have boxing that's even older than that. And when you look back at some of these sports like chess, I mean,
Mm.
those comes from the 1400s and 1300s. So
Wow.
and there's history in those cards, and history in those people that were on those cards back in those days. Even though sometimes you may not know who the player was or the person on that card was, many of those people are, were one of the more famous athletes in the day. So that's what's interesting to me about just the hobby. And
fascinating. That's one of the aspects of your channel, Orlando, that I really appreciate, is learning about the history of sports. And you talk about boxing. There's horse racing was big back in the day, and it's just a good history learning tool that we have, other than just pieces of cardboard with celebrities or athletes on them.
Yeah.
Actually, the history of sports.
Or
And
like some people say, we collect cards with pictures of men on them,
that's right.
but it's much more than that, much deeper than that,
Yeah.
really.
And no doubt. Hey, and I want to continue on that thread, but before we move on, I just want to mention, because I've been following your channel. I've been doing YouTube for my own videos for about 8 months now. But before that, I was just a viewer, and I was watching and commenting on videos maybe a couple years ago, or a couple years, and I really, just enjoy the diversity of channels out there in the community. And I've known about you, when I started, but I still wanted to do a little research. So I found a live stream with you and Caesar Pepino Man
Yeah.
did about 4 weeks ago. And for everyone else watching, I think he had about 600 views. So I'm sure a lot of people watching have already seen it. But if you haven't, it's great. And then just the other night, you Dylan from Double D Vintage, and was it Adam? Yeah,
It was
you
Adam
guys
from
did.
Splendid
Yeah.
Sports.
So
Yeah.
so look that up. So when Orlando graciously agreed to be on my collector's chat, I thought, well, this is great. I've got an exclusive with Orlando. little did I know he's been in demand for a lot of these channels, and rightfully so. So what I tried to do is, I'm going to try to avoid some of the topics and questions that you've already touched upon. So hopefully there could be something unique and different that we could talk about tonight. But I had to eliminate a lot of my thoughts and questions, because a lot of those are answered. So use those live streams as a companion. Yeah. Thanks,
Whatever
Orlando.
you
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
There's stories that never get old. I do agree with that. So, but I just wanted to throw that out. So speaking of kind of nature and beauty and the artwork from cards, so your channel, you call it A Collector's Dream. So I like your channel's name. It's very soothing, tranquil, relaxing, meditative,
But
which really which really comes
Robert,
through. Yeah.
but Robert, isn't that what card collecting is all about?
Yes.
Relaxing, meditating, enjoying the hobby, forgetting about all the problems of the world, and just enjoy it and have fun with it, and it's really relaxing. And that's the thing I like about the hobby. But for sure, and nature, I love nature.
Yeah.
And you see in some of my shorts, I go for walks all the time here in sunny South Florida. It's just a great time, a great place here. And it's just time that I'm retired, so when I go out there and I see birds or anything like that, or I just go ahead and film it. And for me, it's just very relaxing to do that. Just like the card collecting is relaxing. Forget about all the problems of the world, and it's just the stress-free time of the day.
Yeah, no politics.
No,
the hubbub around, all the other junk that's going on in the world. It's like you said, it's an escape, and I appreciate that. And I also like how you've divided up your channel. You have your full length, your regular episodes where you do talk about sports, but then, like you said, you have these 1 minute shorts where you just show And of course, you have the luxury of just living in a beautiful area where you get the great tropical
Yeah, it's just
species, and yeah,
it's always sunny. I mean, it's you know, you have it's just nature. I mean, you know, we have real close to where I'm at is the Everglades, so you get all types of different types of animals and birds and things, just a little bit of everything. We don't get too many gators, alligators out here in the lakes in this area, but you know, they're out there, and the local news reports every once in a while. You know, but overall, it's just a beautiful place. I grew up here. You know, I grew up in South Florida, um, and when ended up here from eventually from Cuba. You know the story, but you know, I grew up in a kind of a rough part of town here in South Florida because when we got here, it was, you know, we didn't have any money. We had to live with another family. You know, it was basically it was three families living in one small 3-bedroom house, and it was pretty crazy, but it was so much fun because us as kids, you know, we'd go out and we'd be in the street, you know, and we got to meet a lot of people and do a lot of things. And, you know, it was one of those days where you never really, you didn't worry about any problems. You didn't worry about getting in trouble when you were with the kids hanging around and throwing the ball. And there were kids that lived in front of me, 4 boys, and we used to play ball all the time in the street there.
mm-hmm.
And you know, it was just fun times, and that's how I got into the cards because of that. You know, they collected cards, and their father was a baseball coach, so that's where I started my little league and stuff like that. But you know, it's just a great area growing up in South Florida because you can play sports all the time. You
Sure.
know, even today, you know, it's 75 degrees, even though it was raining today. But for the most part, you know, you can go outside every day and just enjoy it. And I guess that's why I stay in South Florida.
No, that's excellent. I suppose they do have indoor hockey arenas in case you want to play some hockey, but you're not going to be doing that outside on the frozen pond like we can do here in
Yeah,
Minnesota, where I'm broadcasting from. But yeah, it's just a great tropical way of life.
it's a
I
paradise. You
it's
know.
there you go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
paradise. So Orlando,
yeah.
you've only when Legends Never Die and was doing the YouTube Hall of Fame ballots, and then Picker Jim had us if we weren't eligible to vote, which I am not, because I think you have to be doing content for
For
a year, which
1 year.
is fair. I totally agree. So next year,
Yeah,
my vote will count. But doing research, I just assumed that you had been doing videos for a few years. So I thought, well, you'd be a slam dunk Hall of Fame, but you haven't. You've only,
no,
how long have you been making? I know you've been watching the
yeah.
videos for a while, but how long have you actually been making videos for?
Just a little bit over 2 years.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
started
Okay.
in January. So I will actually the January 1st. So I actually will be eligible for the next vote for next
Okay.
selection there. So we'll see what happens with that. But you know, I didn't do it for anything like that. I did it for to really document my collection. And you know, since I was retired and my dad had passed away, I
Mhm.
you know just kind of did have something to do and document my collection because a lot of my family really didn't know what I had, or they knew everybody knows I collected cards, but they really didn't know what I had. So I figured I documented, and as I went along, I talked about the cards, and you know, to teach really my family. So if anything ever happened to me, they can go back and look at the video and say, what are these cards? Well, here they are. This is this set, and this is what it's all about. And let me tell you about them. So I kind of did it for that, and it was you know, I didn't expect anything out of Rob. I mean, really, it was one of those things that you just never know. And I when I started, I planned on going to the National that year, you know, because after all the COVID stuff was done, and really I was retired. I figured now's my chance to get back to going to the National. I had been to the National before, but you know, this was a good chance for me to go. And so when I was getting ready to go, I did a little video, and I think I had, after about 4 months of putting out, 4 or 5 months of putting out videos, and you can go back and check it. I got a shout out, and I had 38 subscribers. 38 subscribers after doing probably 4 months, 4 to 5 months. It was before I started. My first video was in January, the beginning of January, and my second one was, I think, in February. And then I put a whole bunch of videos together there for a little while. And about a couple months or a month before the National, Vince, New York Yanks fan 7, saw one of my videos, and he gave me a shout out.
Okay.
And by the time I got to the National, about a month after that, I went from 38 to almost 200 subscribers. And I made it a point that when I go to the National, I'm going to find Vince and thank him personally for what he did. And so, right before the National, the last video I put out saying that I was going to the National, and these are some cards that I'm taking to the National to either trade or to sell, and whatever I could. This is in Atlantic City National. So I got some comments from Ryan, Breakout Cards, and we started. I had cards that he wanted, and we got to talking, and we arranged a trade. And I knew he lived here in Orlando, in this area, a few hours from me. But he was going to the National, I was going to the National, so we said, okay, I'll bring these cards, you bring those cards, and we'll do the trade at trade night at the National. So that really was the first YouTube person that I met and became friends with. We hung out there, we went out and had pizza, walked to the Atlantic City boardwalk, and that's the beauty of this hobby, Rob, that I'm in my late 60s, he's in his early 20s.
Oh, wow.
And we collect the same, we have similar interests, and we became good friends. And we were eating pizza at 12:30
Right.
at Atlantic City Boardwalk, and I got to get out of here. I'm like, right, I got to go to the hotel, man. I'm old. But
and then Ryan was going to get up early that morning and go for a 5-mile run. Probably did you join him on that?
Yeah, and of course we roomed at the last National, and him and Steven and I, and he goes out for a run every morning, and Steven's the same. They're both marathon runners, and Steven, I think he hit the gym for like I don't know how many miles on the treadmill. He was on the treadmill, and these guys get up early in the morning. They're working out,
right.
They're doing all the stuff, and which is great, because I like to stay in shape, and I do the same thing. I do 4 or 5 mile walks as often as I can. So, but it makes you young, Robert. That's the main thing
that's true.
That you hang out with these guys, but you learn a lot, because they hustle. They know a lot. They study the cards. They love this hobby, and hanging out with some of those young guys give you some fresh blood.
That's right.
Just kind of give you some incentives, and they love to hang out with me too, because they know I know my stuff, so they kind of ask me a lot of questions and stuff, and it's just a win-win situation. So it's one of those things. I've been out to his house and shared his collection, and and stuff like that, and that's the beauty of it. I've been to LouRok's house. I've been to a few guys. Hitman 23 Mike and a few other guys here. And then Mike's been to my house. So it's one of those things that you collect alone for all your life, and then all of a sudden you have people that
Mm-hmm.
you connect with that you never thought
Exactly.
you would connect with, because
That's right.
they're we're all different, but we're the same when it comes to the hobby. We just love this hobby.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Orlando, if the YouTube experience in the community has changed your life, and you just said it. It sounds like it has changed your life, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it basically revived my hobby and my collecting. Where initially, more focused on the cards and all that, and now I'm more focused on making some friends.
That's
I think
right.
I have a lot of the cards. Like you said, I have a pretty
That's right.
big collection. I have, it's not like I'm done collecting, but I'm focusing on specific cards. Not buying a lot of cards every week. One a month, couple a month, whatever. I can find something that I really catches my eye. But the main thing right now for me is just to have friends, and one of the things they say that when you get older, the reason that people don't last a long time is because they don't have that interaction with other people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The older you get, the more you tend to stay home and
That's
not
right.
do anything, and just you know not talk to people, not go out. And this hobby can be that way. If you get focused on that, you know. But this kind of revives it, and you want to go out to these card shows now. You want to go out, to places where you could see your friends. And when I drive out to Tampa, I want to hook up with Hugo. I want to hook up
Yeah.
with Lou Rock and Jason, Mr. Fisherback, and all these guys that I got to meet. And that's the fun thing and about the hobby. And to me, it's really revived my collecting.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really the essence of what my experience has been too. And you mentioned Hugo and Liam, Stuke, Dre,
Stu, yeah,
yeah, and Dre Diaz. We text offline all the time.
yeah.
So, and I've only been doing it for 7, 8 months. So
Mhm.
I have not been to a national or any of these gatherings. So I'm looking forward to the day I do. I am able to attend that and meet up with Mike Moynihan's YouTube get
Oh
together.
wow,
That'll just
yeah.
be awesome. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
another great guy. Mike
Oh,
Moynihan is just probably, I say he's to me, he's the goat of this hobby. He is the main guy that everybody goes to or everybody knows, and
mm-hmm.
he gives shout outs to all these guys.
Yep,
He asks everybody to come on and talk to him.
yep.
You know, he's someone that I admire so much because he reaches out to people. And I was at the national, and I I'm kind of shy when it comes to going out and meeting people like that you've never met, or people that you look up to, especially people that you look up to. You're like, I don't know, like Dr. Beckett. That's one guy. One I saw Dr. Beckett at going through dollar boxes at the national, and I said hello to him, but I didn't want to bother him. But I wanted to get his autograph, and I didn't do that because it was just one of those things. I was kind of shy, and he's to me, that's Dr. Beckett. I don't want to bother him, as long as I got to say hello. But Mike Moynihan was the same way. You
Mm.
know, I saw him there. I said hello to him, and I got a little starstruck. I guess if you want to say it that way. And
Right.
so I kind of didn't know what to say, and so I started talking to other people, and then a little while later, Mike comes back, hugs me, and says, "Get over here." And he
Wow.
pulls me off to the side, pulls me off to the corner, and really starts chatting it up with me there, me and him alone. And I think, those are the things that really mean so much to me, that someone like that, of that caliber, that I see someone so um, knowledgeable and someone that everybody admires. He came looking for me in that little crowd of people, and literally pulled me out from the crowd to talk to me. I mean, that
Right.
what can I say? I'll never forget that moment, and those are the true memories that really are the hobby. not just getting the card, but you know, I picked up nice cards at the National, but that's one of the memories that really sticks to me more than the card that I picked up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that just goes to show you. I mean, that's a great story on both Mike and Dr. Beckett, because you look at, Mike Moynihan, he's actually maybe why I'm here talking to you today, Orlando. Like I said, I, well, even going back farther than before I discovered YouTube, I, I think, well, I know you used to be in sales too. I'm in sales also. I work for a food broker. I'm in the food industry. So I travel to different grocery stores here in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. So I spend a lot of time in my car. So I listen to podcast. Music's good, but for a change of pace, I like to listen to some podcasts. And so I was doing my Apple Podcast search, and I think I put in baseball card or something like that. And Mike Moynihan's Golden Age of Cardboard podcast came on, and this is so cool. So I was watching that, and then he was showing cards, and he said, I also, this is a simulcast or I have a video version of this on YouTube. So of course I checked it out, and then that's how I was basically introduced to all this whole YouTube community. And, of course I subscribed and then watched his videos and watched others. But when I started my channel, and I think most of us, when we get a subscriber that has, their own content, their own channel, we like to subscribe back to them. So you got a guy like Mike Moynihan who has, probably thousands of people that, he's subscribed to, I would imagine. And when I put out a video, not always, but he'll take time. Sometimes he'll make a comment or whatever. And I'm just so impressed because, here I am. I just got my 200 subscribe. I made the 200 subscriber milestone mark. And so I'm just, small potatoes, and, he takes the time. And so he just seems like a great guy in that aspect. So, and then Dr. Beckett, it's funny you mentioned him, Orlando. See, I'm doing the math in my head. I was probably 12 years old when I bought, I think it was probably his third baseball guide. I think it was 1980. I think the 1981 one, the one with George Brett on the cover. I bought that and just wore that thing out because, it had all the sets and everything. And I had my cards, and I, of course, had to match them up and see what the prices and see the cards I had and dream about the ones I didn't. And I just wore that thing out. And I remember at the time I thought, and I think his picture might have been on the back or something. I thought, oh, Dr. Beckett, and then come like a year ago, I saw Dr. Beckett on a stream, and I'm like, oh my God, he's still, because the way he looks now is the way I pictured him, 40 years ago, and he's still going strong. So yeah, it's great.
It just seems like he's been around forever, because I still have some of his Beckett guys. I think I have one. It's like an 86 or an 84. I'm not sure which one it is, but I highlighted all the cards that I had, all the big name cards on that Beckett with a highlighter there, and I still have it. Because I would check the prices, and then when the new one came in, I'd get the new Beckett and compared to the old, the original one I had. And that's the only thing that we had to go by back in the in the 80s and stuff. I mean, and Dr. Beckett produced a lot of stuff, not just the monthly guides, but he produced a yearly book too, which I also bought, that big thick Beckett guide.
That's the one I was referring to, is the big thick, I think it's the annual or something, the price guide. But
that's the annual, and that
exactly. Had some good glossy pictures of the cards in there. And I remember seeing the
I read that thing cover to cover. I learned about every single set, everything possible that it was in there. And it's just a lot of fun, Rob. I mean, we have to find ways to get the younger kids into this hobby, but not through just the gambling, opening packs and breaks thing. More of the fun of the hobby, and then sharing, all the good stuff that goes along with the hobby. getting off your iPad or off your cell phone and, doing something different, I mean, sorting
Mhm.
cards to me, I remember when I was young and, open packs, but sorting cards to me was one of the best things I used to do. Just put it all on the floor and sort them
Yep.
all out. And I mean, I would spend hours doing that. And it was like, so much fun. And,
Mhm.
there's just so much to do and so much, I think everyone needs to have a hobby, whether
Yep.
it's card collecting or scrapbooking or whatever it is, um, you know. But I think if you have a hobby in your life, it makes your life so much better. You always have something to look forward to. You always have something to do, something to
Right.
take your mind off of the troubles and the problems in the world. I made a pact in my life when I retired that I wasn't going to sit there and watch TV all day anymore, and especially not watch the news all the time. I mean, it's not like I don't watch it. I mean, I'll watch
Right.
15 minutes of news to see what's happening, a little bit of local
Mhm.
news, a little bit of national news, and that's it. I'm done for the day. I don't need to
Right.
know every single thing because what is it? It's all negative. All it does is kind of bring you down and you think about all the bad things that's happening all over the world. And, that's not good for you, not good for your mental health and not good for your
No.
health physically. So, I think that if you find something that you love and you have a passion for, you know, do that. And, there's got to be ways to get kids to find some pleasure or some enjoyment in doing things other than just being on their cell phone, scrolling through Facebook or playing video games or something like that. And that's kind of my goal, I guess, in
Mhm.
this hobby. Now that I've kind of got a little bit more from, I've shown all my collection, not all of it, but most of it. So, I like to give a lot of shout outs. And you see, I gave you shout outs when you first started because I think I need to, I want to give back, you know, like you do in your videos where every single person that subscribes to you, you put their name up there, and you talk about them. And I think that is, it's helped a lot of people. And I think it just encourages more people to start YouTube channels. So that boost that I got when I was starting, when I went from 38, subscribers to 200, I'll never forget that. And that's why I go back and I look at any new channels that I like. I mean, I'm not going to push somebody that I just don't, it's got to be something that I enjoy. But if I enjoy your channel, if I enjoy your content and I enjoy you, like you, Robert, someone that I see as just you, from what I see, you are who you are on your channel. That's you. You're not, I won't name some of these influencers that, they
Right.
they and I've seen a lot of these influencers and I've met them. I've met all these from
Right.
Jeff Wilson to Mojo to Roth to, you know, you name all those guys. I've met them all at the national and at the card shows. And, some of them are, who they are who you see, but some of them are just for show, and they'll put
Mhm.
on a show in front of the camera,
Yeah.
but they're different when they're off the camera,
Okay.
and that's I want people like you. You
Right.
are what you are. I mean, that's it. There's a
Right.
lot of people like that in the hobby, and there's people that I met at the national that I've admired for many years. And Amish Dave Archer. I don't know if you've ever met him. Have you ever seen him? He's got
Mm.
the every week I go on his Insert Revolution podcast. Him and Steve Bronco, and these guys have been doing YouTube for I think about 15 years, each one of them,
Wow.
and
Huh.
neither one is in the Hall of Fame, the YouTube Hall of
Hmm.
Fame, even though they both deserve to be in the YouTube
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. But these guys know their stuff. They're real people. I got to meet them at the national, and it's just, they tell it like it is, and that's what I'm looking for people in videos. tell it like it is, be yourself, and just show your collection, and but try to do some entertaining, even if it's just teaching a little bit about the card or the player on the card and talk a little bit about it. I try to do a little bit of that in my videos, teach as much as possible. But I admire people like Terry at TJ Maxx, where he really goes in these questions and stuff about players and the way he tells the stories. The same with Alex at Bowman 53, his storytelling, to me, those are classic type videos. You have Hammer 44, who I also met at the National, and that guy is probably one of the best guys I've met, as far as, let me just put it this way. He's a true hero, not of but of this country. He's that's all I can say about him. And there's many people like that in this community. There's a lot of police officers, firemen, people that do things for other people and risk their lives. And you don't know that when you watch their videos or you see their videos, but it's just it's the stories and the stories behind the videos and the people. And one guy I gotta say, Eddie's from Eddie's Cardboard Chaos. What's his saying? Collect to connect, I think is what he says. Collect to connect, and that it's not about subscribers, it's about friends. And that says it all. I mean, that basically it's what it's all about here in this small little YouTube community, because we are a small part of YouTube, a tiny little minuscule part of YouTube. But I think we are one of the best communities as far as good people and friendly people, and that are in it for the good of the hobby, versus these guys that are in it for getting sponsors and putting out all this blah 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 content and the talking heads of the world, and that's just not who I am, and that's not the type of collectors that I'll hang around with for the most part. Even though I've met Dustin, the sports car dad over there, and I talked to him for a while, and his wife, and I met all these other guys, Neo and Flippin' Steve and all those guys. Great guys, they're great guys. It's just I don't know. some of their stuff is just a little too commercialized and sponsored stuff.
Right. Well, you've said a lot of just poignant, realities of this hobby, and just basically of life, I think. I mean, any endeavor that you participate in, it kind of mirrors, all walks of life. It takes all different kinds and personalities. I think it was Rip from Rip 'Em All. He kind of had a great, kind of an intuitive statement. He said, for some, from this community, for some, this is a big part of their lives. I mean, this is, there might be people that this is their communication and interaction with people that otherwise they wouldn't have. And so it's important, and there's, all types of content. I mean, for me, I act silly. I try to make it entertaining as possible, because if I just did a calm meditation, soothing, and showed my cards, people would tune out real quick. Where you got the great fantastic cards to back it up.
But I am kind of boring when I do my videos. Yes, I talk a little bit kind of, but it's just because a lot of times I'll do my videos and I just do it without editing. I'll just start pulling out some cards. I'm going to go talk about these cards. So I sometimes talk slow because I'm thinking, what am I going to say? You know, but
no, I mean,
it's
you're real. Like you said, you're real. You're not trying to impress anyone. I mean, your cards do your talking. And I mean, like you said, we get enough of that in your face media and just, the ones that aren't retired, we have to deal with the work life and stress. So
yeah.
you come to this and it's just a break from reality. And then you mentioned also, Orlando, that collecting. Did you ever? I personally, back in the 70s, remember the beer can craze where people were collecting beer cans. I did that for a while, but it quickly faded out because it's not like baseball where it's a national pastime, or football. People. I guess some people would say that drinking beer is a national pastime. But so have you collected coins or any other type of things? Yeah.
I've collected a little bit of everything. I have coins. I have coins from Cuba. I have a lot of different types of coins, but mainly it's Cuban. I do have a couple of gold coins and some silver coins and stuff like that. I also do have a few stamps. I have some stamps from the baseball players, stamps and stuff like that. That the post office gave out, like the old Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig's and stuff like that. I also have, like you said, I have cups. I have bottles. I have, things. The 7-Elevens used to give out these little plastic cups with the players on them.
Slurpee.
I have Slurpees. I have some of those Slurpees and Ices.
That's right.
Called here too. Yeah. So I have some of those. I also have some Coke bottles that have all different types of things. Like I think I have an old one from the Super Bowl. I have a little logo of the Super Bowl. I have one from racing. From the Daytona, from different events, I think I have. And so I have a lot of stuff like that. I have, God, I don't know, man. I have so much different collectible stuff. So I just a little bit of hodgepodge of everything,
And you still have those items, Orlando?
Yeah, I have games. I have video games.
Maybe you'll sprinkle some of those items in occasionally once you start, getting on in the years of doing your cards or whatnot. Maybe you'll sprinkle those in too.
Yeah, I should probably do a little bit of that stuff too. See what else I can put in there. But yeah, it's
Well, switching gears a little bit. I was really happy to hear the other day I was watching one of your videos, and you mentioned Jose Fernandez.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me because I was playing rotisserie baseball or fantasy baseball, and he was one of the players that I watched, and when I first laid eyes on him, I knew he was special. That ball moved like I'd never seen it before. It was like a video game. It defied gravity. It defied physics, basically. And so I had him on my team, so to speak, and I had the Major League Baseball package, so I could watch games from all the different teams. And I tell you, I never missed a Jose Fernandez start. I mean, he'd play like in front of 3,000 people in Florida, but
in the beginning,
this guy was great.
This guy was great. He had an incredible curveball, and at first nobody really knew how good he was, so he didn't get a lot of attendance. But then once everybody knew how well he played, and that every time he went out there, the Marlins had a chance to win, where we didn't win very often back in those days. But so he started drawing the crowds. And then it was Jose Fernandez night. That means he was pitching tonight, and we'd get 20,000 people in a stadium that normally you'd see on a regular night 3,000 to 5,000 people.
Right. I guess it's all relative. So like 20,000 for a Florida Marlins game, that's like selling out a
Yeah,
stadium of
yeah,
50,
for
60.
sure.
But yeah,
That's a lot. You don't see that many people in the state. Even today,
no.
there's not that many people. Usually, it's about maybe 10,000.
Yeah, and he was so
Let me get a
enthusiastic.
drink of water here.
Yeah, you bet. I'll talk. He was so enthusiastic that I think the old timers, the veterans, I should say, they kind of mistook that as, cockiness and not playing the game right.
Yeah,
So he kind of made some enemies, but it was always, he was always apologizing, saying, I'm not trying to disrespect you. This is just my enthusiasm, and maybe you
right.
could talk about that. He had reason to be enthusiastic, didn't he?
Well, I mean, here's a guy that really should never even have been in this country. He had some family here, but basically what happened with him was that he tried to get out of Cuba a few times. He was, I think, 14 years old the first time he tried to get out, and they caught him. And in Cuba, they put him back in jail because if you want to, you can't just leave the country. It's communist country, and they put him in I guess juvenile detention for a while, and then they let him out. And he tried 3 times to get out. He was caught all 3 times. Then he finally was able to. He learned. He learned that this is how they're going to catch me now. So now I know other ways to get out. And he actually got a group of people together with a little bit nicer boat, and he convinced his mom and his sister to go with him to finally escape. And they did. They got out of Cuba, and the Cuba Coast Guard or whatever didn't catch them, and that's the first thing they got. Usually, got to pass that stage, and then you got to go through the famous area. There's kind of the Bermuda Triangle out there. So when they were going through there in this smaller boat, I mean, you're talking a 20-something foot boat, just a recreational type boat going across those heavy seas with a bunch of people on the boat, because they crowd those boats. And I mean, they'll take as many people. Well, they can't get that many, but as many as they can take. So during the trip, his mother, a big wave came and threw his mother overboard, and he dove in. Jose Fernandez dove in to get his mom, and another guy helped them, and they finally were able to get his mom back on the boat, and they did make it finally to the United States. And again, we're in detention or whatever, and they ended up in Tampa with his relative out there, and that's where at 15 years old he went to the high school there and was a star because he was playing in Cuba. And there's
Mhm.
so many great players in Cuba that unfortunately have never been able to get out of this country. Some of them have. You
Mhm.
have players like Yasiel Puig and a bunch of other guys that did get out. But he was a star, a young star in Cuba, and that's one of the reasons they didn't want to let him out. But eventually, he became a star here, and he threw 2 no-hitters in high school, and he was drafted, and the rest is history. He became one of the top players. He was
Mhm.
rookie of the year, and really was on his way to probably I'm not gonna say Hall of Fame career, but definitely he did make the
No,
All-Star team and
he
everything. So
was.
he was on his way,
He
and
was.
his life ended
Mhm.
in the ocean on a boat, where unfortunately he had a bad accident and crashed into some rocks in the jetty late at night, and you know
Right.
risked his life to come to this country. And
Uh,
it's kind of very extremely sad, but the only good thing was that he had gotten married right before, and
mhm.
his wife was pregnant, and he never did see his daughter, but he does have a daughter, and that's one of the things he knew
It's
that before he passed away. He knew that his wife was pregnant.
Yeah, he was amazing. And if there's anyone listening that hasn't seen Jose Fernandez, I'm sure they could find clips of him on YouTube, and he probably even complete games. I mean, when I heard the news, I was just like devastated because
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but of all the people, and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, the unfulfilled potential. I mean, who knows? You could have got, who knows what could happen. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's he was just, and I think he was underappreciated because he played in Florida. I mean, if he was in a
Oh,
larger market, he would have been.
if he was in
He
New
would have been Michael
York
Jordan. Yeah,
yeah, or Chicago, or a big team
yeah.
like that, because the Marlins
That's
in those days were terrible. But if he played, and he still has a winning record and like a 2 point something ERA, and I feel that it will probably be a good story for a movie.
yeah.
If somebody really looked into that, and I think it would be a really inspiring movie of someone, trying to escape tyranny in their own country, going through what he went to, finally got here to a free country where he was able to fulfill his dreams.
Mhm.
And I think that's and unfortunately it was a tragic ending, but look at there's a lot of movies like that. Brian Song
Oh,
with
yeah.
Brian Piccolo and
Hmm.
Gale Sayers. That's one of my favorite movies. And he's another local here. Brian Piccolo is a local athlete here from South Florida. Went to school here, and the park about a mile and a half from my house. I actually did a video of going to the park, the
Oh,
Brian Piccolo Park. You can check it out in my videos.
check that out.
I went to it's Brian Piccolo Park, and inside
Hmm.
that park they have a little mini museum of Brian Piccolo. And he went to the high school that my son went to, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
It wasn't called St. Thomas at the time, but that is the school. And he was a big star here, very famous. And then he was drafted by the Bears, and he was competing with Gale Sayers, and he was trying to become as good as Gale Sayers, and Sayers respected him and became his best friend. And the best
Hmm.
thing about it was that they were the first two roommates, black and white, that roomed together on a national football team, and they became that close. They were roommates, and became such good friends. And unfortunately, at the end, Brian Piccolo developed cancer and stuff. But you
Well,
know, I'm depressing the entire
well,
interview
no, I
about
mean,
going
no,
through this, but
Orlando. I'm glad you brought
it's
that.
history, and I
Yeah.
think
Oh, I'm
these are
glad you.
stories that people
Yeah.
should know, because they're inspiring stories,
Yeah.
even though they end up sad. It's inspiring, and it shows what people go through in their lives and how they risk their lives for certain things.
Oh, for sure. I'm glad you brought up Brian's song. Now I think of it, I did see that video, and if anyone hasn't, go back into Orlando, A Collector's Dreams archives and find that. Because I think if you're under 50, you may not even be aware of that whole uh, Brian Piccolo, Gale Sayers story relationship. I think in the 70s, it was a made-for-television movie. It was
Yeah,
called a Brian song. And
right.
if you didn't cry watching that movie, I don't think you have a pulse. I don't think you're alive. That's how, I mean, it sounds sappy, but even the song, Brian, it's just
Yeah,
such a good a movie. So
yeah, and
say,
good actors too. They're
oh
good actors.
yeah.
Billy D. Williams, and
Oh, yeah.
guys, I forget his.
Landau Chris from Star Wars, Landau, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Billy D.
Billy
Williams,
D. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then, who's the other actor? He's got the,
James. God, I can't remember, but another famous actor that played
yeah, he had the
Piccolo.
curly, permy hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
the
remember
curly
that.
hair. Right.
Yeah, James Caan. How about that? James
James
Caan.
Caan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
And
got
he
it.
may have passed recently, I think, but yeah. But yeah, great movie.
You know more than me.
Um,
I still need to do some interviews on my channel, which I've never done.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that would be great. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I would love to see that. I
yeah.
mean,
There's a lot of people I would love to interview, especially some people that have never really done
yeah.
YouTube, that have great collections. I recently convinced Mike Petty to go on one of the live streams, and he's got an incredible collection, but he'll never do a YouTube channel. So
Oh,
there's a lot
okay.
of people that I know that have really great collections that
Well,
don't want to show, either themselves or their YouTube channel, or their face or their collection, but they will, they'll go on and show their cards. They may not want to show their face, but
Yeah.
I'd like to interview some of those people just at least to get their perspective and get some of their, ideas and just how they collected and stuff.
Well, how about those two guys you said have been doing their channel for 15 years? And they're
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I mean, those are, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got their own channels. I mean, Amish Dave has their own channel. He just doesn't
Right.
do a lot of cards anymore.
Well,
They
I'm
just do
gonna
the podcast.
Amish Dave. That was the
Amish
one.
Amish Dave Archer, yeah.
Okay, I'll look him up and yeah,
Look
I'll
him
check
up
him
and
out.
look
I
up
will.
Steve. It's a Broncos. I'm not sure if it's Broncos. He's those two guys are just some of
Mm-hmm.
the. They're usually on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday nights. And they
Okay.
do a live stream, and a lot of times they'll bring in Brad 8671, I think it is, who just got voted into the Hall of Fame. And Bradley is the one that's a Dolphin fan, so I followed him because he's a big Dolphin fan.
Okay.
So
Amish Dave Archer.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I saw his channel, but I thought he was making furniture or something like that, or making houses. No,
Yeah.
I'll check that. So
Yeah, check
I
it
should
out.
just circle back. You had mentioned that you did the shout outs, and you shouted out my channel when I had like 53 or something subscribers, because your episode was channels that did not have 200 subscribers but should, or something like that.
Yeah.
So you shouted me out, and you shouted out about 8 other channels. Like Mookie Chilson was one of them, and Signs of the Pastime.
I shouted out Hugo when he first started, I think.
Right.
I think right after he did his Al Lopez video, which I think was one of the first ones, or the first one he did.
Yeah, and Hugo, because of that, he subscribed to my channel because of your shout out, and I subscribed back to him. And then, as you probably saw, we met up in Florida, and wow,
that's exactly what I want to happen. I want people to do that and shout out each other and stuff. And look at Dre Diaz. Dre and I have been trying to hook up for so long. He's been in Florida. He comes to Florida, and I have his number. We text back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to meet him and Mrs. Diaz and give them a big hug, because I feel like I know them already, even though I haven't personally met them.
Me too.
But they're such great guys. I mean,
they are.
When I met one of the best guys I met at the National was Chris from Missouri.
Okay.
Man, he's just a big teddy bear. I had to go give him a huge hug. And he's such a lovable guy, such a down-to-earth, nice, genuinely nice, giving guy. I mean, just people just don't realize all the good things that happen in the hobby. I mean, even at the National, and I'll share this, I don't know, he may not want people to share, but at the National, when they had that get together and everybody's eating pizza, he saw that pizza was, I think, running low, and he ordered pizza for everybody there.
There you go.
I mean, he went out and ordered pizza for the whole gang.
That's great.
And there was 100 people there, must have been there. And, those are the things that, these people in the community do. And, so the least I could do is just give some shout outs to people.
Right.
So
I love hearing
they did it for me. I'll do it for you guys,
Well, I love hearing.
I love what you do every single time that somebody subscribes to you. You're able to do that.
That's probably to my own detriment, because I'm sure a lot of people are just clicking off and going, okay, goodbye. But that's all right.
You can't do it forever, It's just, but it's a great thing. As much as you can continue that, do it.
Yeah. And then Chris from Missouri, I enjoyed watching his video in the beginning, because he said I think he used to do lawn mowing or something. And then this lady he would lawn mow for his payment, she had like a can of cards or something like that. Right. And he used to just pick out a bunch of cards. It's just like, just those great type of stories. I mean, that's what's I love about this hobby, are the stories that you hear. And then you talked about Hugo and Dre. They actually go on location, and you've done that too. You go on location and you talk about it. I mean, it's fine. You know, I've never been on. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've been to card shows, but most of it's from, like you said, my couch. But yeah. Hey, God, we've gone over an hour so far. And I didn't get a chance to talk to your personal assistant. Do you have any other engagements or anything else? Other channels that you need to be on like in 10 minutes, or because I know like
No.
they run you thin because you are Orlando Collector's Dream, but you have a
Well,
little bit of time.
yeah, I have plenty of time.
Okay.
The problem with me, Rob, is
Yeah.
Robert, I have a hard time saying no to any interviews. So I I
Oh,
haven't.
okay.
Yeah, and I think when is it? Sometime this week I have another one with Darren, Return to Collecting.
Well, before we end this, I want to hear what your schedule is so the people out there can watch you and find you. Okay, I think my technical department got that thing straightened out. Okay, here's what I'm going to play for you.
Socialism failing to work as it always does, this time in Venezuela. You talk about giving everybody something free, and all of a sudden there's no food to eat. And who do you think is the richest person in Venezuela? The daughter of Hugo Chavez. Hello. Anyway, 0-2.
Oh,
I love when Vin goes, oh, anyway, 0-2, and he just goes
great.
right on with the game.
Awesome. But
Yeah.
You see what's happened now. In Venezuela, it's all communist now, and it's ruled by gangs. It's what's happening in Venezuela, and in many other parts like that. When communism takes over, that people really can't make money or can't have a legitimate job unless you work for the government or something like that. You're not going to make money, and they have to find other ways. And in Cuba, it was the black market and things like that, because Cuba, of course, they took everybody's guns away, so nobody there can own a gun. And Venezuela, the gangs taken over, and they're coming here. Unfortunately, they're already in parts of New York and Chicago, and they're going to keep coming because they can come here and they can get away with things here that in certain places where they can't get away. Over there in Venezuela, they it's the Wild West. Let me put it that way.
Wow.
In the same way it is in Mexico with the gangs there, it's also the Wild West. And many of the unfortunately, a lot of the countries are that way. And let's just hope that we don't bring it here. And unfortunately, you see some of the problems that are happening in New York and in other places where they leave the bad people come here. Unfortunately, in Venezuela and other places like in Cuba, I don't know if you remember years ago the Mariel boat lift. The reason for that was to send all the criminals and all of the people out of the mental institutions and all the people that were against the government. Fidel Castro sent them all here, and that in South Florida, it caused a lot of crime because of the people that came here. A lot of them came from the jails, and the same thing's happening in Venezuela and a lot of these countries. They're sending a lot of the bad people here to this country.
Yeah,
and,
wasn't
it's unfortunate.
wasn't that kind of the basis of that movie Scarface with Al Pacino?
Yes,
He had come
exactly.
from yeah. So
Where at that point, they don't believe in laws.
Yeah. So because I've heard you talk about this, you were four when, I mean, is it fair to characterize that your family fled from Cuba and they came to America and then?
We literally fled from Cuba
Yeah.
in 1960. 1959, Fidel Castro was elected, and we were against the government. My dad worked for the Bank of Havana, and he was an official for the bank. And when he was notified, or the bank was notified, all of these new things were coming in. Basically, you couldn't take any more money out of the country. So the government had to approve everything. And anyway, my dad notified all his clients and told them what was going on, and then basically we had to leave the country. And when we left the country and got to the airport in Havana, they took away all of our possessions, everything that we had, the suitcases, all our clothes, all our pictures, my mother's jewelry, all the wedding rings that she had, and everything. And we went. We were trying to get to the United States, but we ended up in Honduras, and we had to spend some time over there. And that's my earliest memory.
You remember that?
My earliest memory was in Honduras,
Wow.
not in Cuba. I don't remember anything from Cuba.
Okay.
I was 4 years old when I left Cuba, but we spent some months in Honduras trying to get out of there and come to the United States. So I do remember as a little boy parts of Honduras. Remember walking down the railroad tracks in an area there where my uncle worked. He had a business around that area. And I just remember some things about that. And getting to this country is when really I remember it all. Okay. Being taken to the Freedom Tower here in Miami, where they checked us all out and they gave us all shots and stuff like that. And we didn't get any money back in the day. You had to be sponsored. You had to have somebody that was going to take care of you. The government didn't give you anything and really didn't help you, even if because we had a language issue also. Now, luckily, my mom spoke a little bit of very little English, but, they're both college educated and stuff in Cuba. And, they both had, pretty good degrees and jobs. But when we came here, it was just, the government, in 1960, the government didn't have a lot of influx of people coming in back in those days. So when we came in, of course, there was definitely asylum, we didn't come with anything at all. Not even now, at least they come with backpacks, and we didn't come in with anything because we didn't have anything. And they took us to there and, checked us all out, made sure we didn't have any diseases and stuff. Anybody that had any diseases or were sick or stuff like that, they would send you back, I think, in those days. But you had to have some family or someone that would take care of you. And the good thing was that my grandfather was able to come here before we came. So he got a job. So he kind of sponsored us, even though he couldn't support us, but at least he took us in with another family. So that's where we had 3 families in one little house here. And yeah, I remember those days going to school and being kind of put in classes where they tried to put the Spanish people together, in the class. Like, let's say they'd have, and I started, first grade, here in the United States. So I remember when we started, let's say there were 5 first grade classes. They put all of the Spanish kids in one class, so at least they could be together and communicate. But there were only 3 or 4 of us at the time, and so we really didn't know too much, and it was tough. I mean, those days, you'd get some words and stuff, and they call your names and things like that, and we hung out a lot with some of the blacks because we kind of didn't fit in with the white people, because in those days in Miami, Miami was very white. There was no Latins here. It was black and white, and the blacks were on one side and the whites were on the other side. The blacks were in Overtown, and and the whites were in the other part of town. And I lived closer to the Overtown area. That's kind of where I grew up there. And so it was just it was good, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money.
Right.
We had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of friends, and people took you in. I mean, people in those days were very friendly. I remember that I had so many friends. I remember just old
Well,
ladies, Mrs. J, people like that were just so nice.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, you can't put a price on freedom, right? I mean, it's just like
No, I mean,
it's
eh,
it's just music to my ears, not hearing about the struggles, but just how you came to America and appreciate it more than I think people that are quote unquote maybe spoiled because they were born here and they think, that it's not a good place or whatever. But
yeah.
yeah.
And Robert, you didn't, when I started collecting cards when I was in elementary school,
Hmm.
and I didn't have any money. I didn't even have an allowance. We didn't have anything like that at all. The only way that I could get a little bit of money was when I would get my lunch money. I think it was like a quarter or something like that. They would give you for lunch in school. That my
Yeah.
parents would give me because you have to have lunch at school.
Right.
Because my mom and dad both had to work. Until I was like a teenager, my mom and dad worked. My dad had 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs, and my mom was the same. She would have a job and then do some stuff, whatever she could on the side.
Hmm.
And my grandmother was basically the one that raised us.
Mm.
But it was just one of those times that I would, whenever I'd have like a nickel left, I'd go to the drugstore,
Yeah.
budget drugs, and buy a little pack of cards.
For a
And
nickel.
that's how I started, for a nickel. It was a nickel back when I
And
when I
was
first
this
opened
the
packs. It was the late '60s.
late 60s?
I
Okay.
I
Okay.
think '68 was the first
Okay.
packs I remember opening.
Okay.
'68, '69, and then
Yeah.
1970.
Right.
By then, I had a little lawn, not a lawn service, but as I think I was 12 years old or something
Hmm.
like that. I would cut up some of the lawns around the block. I had
Yeah.
3 or 4 lawns that I would cut, and I would get a few bucks here and there, and I would get enough to go buy a box of cards in
Hmm.
1970, and from
Hmm.
then on, and then that's how I really built
Yeah.
my. That's what I started really collecting, putting my sets together and collecting cards.
So did you were you following Major League Baseball and just like the players and you wanted to get cards, or did you buy the cards first and then said, "Oh, I should watch or how did that work for you?"
Well, my family has always been baseball fans. I mean, the
Okay.
baseball is always from Cuba, and like I said, my grandmother and my grandfather, I spent more time with them probably than my mom and dad when I was small.
Hmm.
And my grandfather was a huge baseball fan. He Even in Cuba, when he had a little grocery store, he had actually 2 small bodegas there, and he sponsored a local team in his
Mm.
local town there.
Okay.
And so when he came here, he was the one that took me to spring training games,
Oh, okay.
and he would take me to games. And that in those days, the 2 teams that played here were the Yankees in Fort Lauderdale
Hmm.
and the Orioles in Miami. The Orioles in Miami were, I mean, I could ride my bike to the Miami Stadium. Well, it's called Miami Stadium, but it's not the one now.
Right.
It's a smaller little stadium where they played,
Mm.
where the Orioles used to play. So
And they were
that's
world
where,
champions in 70, weren't they? Yeah.
yeah, and
They were a
that was
good team. Yeah.
they were great teams, and that's where they had Brooks Robinson and Jim
Hmm.
Palmer and Frank Robinson and Boog Powell and
Mm.
Al Bumbry and I mean just tons of good
Hmm.
Bobby Grich and
Yeah.
I mean just tons of good players, and that's where I really got my first experience in my grandfather. I told this in one of my videos there, and I showed the ball that my grandfather caught in one of those spring training games where he caught a foul ball. And after the game, the reason we went to that game is because he knew one of the pitchers that was pitching for the Orioles. He wasn't one of the big famous pitchers, but his name was like mine, Orlando, and his Orlando Pena.
Hmm.
And he played many years for various teams. Um, but he started playing here, and I think his first card I have, his rookie card was 59. And my grandfather sponsored his team in Cuba in about 57, 58, around those years. So my grandfather knew him. So when he caught the foul ball at the end of the game, he went down. And in those days, at the end of the game, you can go right down to almost the field. I mean, they actually could go to the field. So we went right up to the little fence there, and my grandfather called Orlando Pena over, and he said, "Oh, Maximo, come!" Yes, he came to hug my grandfather and stuff, and get emotional.
Yeah.
And then so he introduced me to him.
Yeah.
Showed him the ball. Orlando Pena autographed the ball, and then he said, "Come here." And he took me and my grandfather into the dugout.
Yeah.
Literally into the dugout.
Right.
And there were some players there that were just, gathering their stuff, just chit-chatting
Yeah.
around. And one of them was Brooks Robinson.
Oh.
And I remember Brooks Robinson took the ball, autographed the ball, talked to me for a few minutes there. It was like patting me on the back, asking me if I played baseball and things like
Nice.
that. And, and then he took the ball and he passed it around and he gave it to Jim Palmer and he gave it to all these other players that were in there. And they all signed the ball for me. Wow. And I mean, I don't know how long I spent there. It must have been a total of 15 minutes, but it seemed like I was there for an hour.
Right.
Just there.
That's amazing.
My at that point I could speak English because I've been going to school. My grandfather did not know English.
Right.
So I was able to translate for him some of the stuff that some of the players were saying, because he would say, Orlando, what did he tell you? What's Brooks telling you? But it was just an incredible experience, and that really was my first experience getting to know players, and that really, I was playing Little League. I was really got involved in collecting cards. That's where my first real interest in cards, because now I knew these players. I got to meet some of these players. I got to see some of them play. I got to see the Yankees play in Fort Lauderdale too. And, since the Yankees were, I became a Yankee fan. They played here and I got to see them, but they were pretty much on TV almost every Saturday. In those days, they only had that Saturday afternoon game. The only thing you could watch in one game a week. The game
That's
of the
how
week,
I started.
Yeah.
That's how I started. Yeah. You watched that.
I followed the Yankees. I became a Mickey Mantle fan, and that was the player that I loved, Mickey Mantle and Brooks Robinson.
Those are some good ones for sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that, Orlando. That's a great experience that not many kids your age get to experience. So, just to get back to Cuba real quick. So President Obama lifted that embargo with Cuba, didn't he, a few years ago, like the trade embargo?
The trade embargo, yes, he did.
But you can't still just travel to Cuba, could you? I mean, like, if you want, do you have family that live in Cuba right now that you know of?
No, the family that I had there that stayed there, pretty much they passed away.
Okay. So you have no real Cuba connection with. Okay. No. So you haven't been back. Have you been back to Cuba since coming here? Would you have a desire to go back just to see where your family came from, or? Yeah.
I wanted to go back with my dad when he was alive. I really wanted him to see his country one more time, but we're not allowed to. I guess we're on our last name or our name is on the blacklist or whatever it's called, that they do not allow us to go back. So I cannot get a visa to go. I can go. I can get out of this country, but Cuba will not give me a visa to go in their country, at least not me or my mother, my family, but my daughter did go, and she has gone. She went once
Okay.
because my daughter's married with a different name. She doesn't have my last name.
Okay.
She has, she's married with her. She's married to a Colombian, so she has a different name. And he he was able to go
Okay.
and take her there. So my daughter has gone to Cuba
Yeah.
with her husband, but she did get the visa. They didn't, so she's not
Right.
associated with me according to
So
them.
yeah.
But
So
no, I wish I would love to take Robert.
yeah.
I would love to take my mom to Cuba before
Mhm.
she passes away. She's going to be 95 years old this year, and I would love for her. She still walks and she's pretty healthy, and she could do it, but we can't get a visa to go. They
Yeah.
won't allow us to
So
go.
I mean, the moral of the story is like tyrannical regimes don't have short memories. You're blacklisted, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you're once an enemy, you're always an enemy, I guess.
Right. Yeah. No, I guess it's a trade-off. I mean, if you would have stayed in Cuba, who knows, your life would have been.
Yeah,
It
but
it would have.
this is my country. I mean,
It's your country. Yeah.
I got here when I was 5 years old, and I've been raised here and started school here, and I'm an
Mhm.
American, and
That's right.
I I wish I could go see the place where I was born,
Hmm.
because yeah, of course you want to see the place where I was born, and
Yeah.
and the house where my parents lived and things like that. You would love to go see that, but unfortunately, it's just not the way it is with
Yeah.
socialist
I
government
mean,
and
yeah, not to get all,
tyranny and stuff. So
yeah, not
anyway,
to get,
we're
yeah,
getting
I
into
mean,
all that
yeah,
stuff, but
yeah, I mean, not to get all
life.
philosophical, but if like you look at the world or the earth from space, you just see one earth. It's just hard to believe that there's so many different pockets of just different ideologies and just different differences and one, one earth, one world. I mean, I think you become sheltered when you live, when you have it so good here in the United States, relatively speaking, that there's places, countries that you can't even go to, that was your homeland, and you can't even, your mother can't go back. It's sad. It's unfathomable, but I guess it's the reality.
Free speech. That's what this country is all about, and I just wish every country had free speech.
Right. Well, we're
You
saying
know,
now, if that was in a socialist country, we might be in trouble.
yeah.
That's well,
Because speech and opinions and sharing the difference of opinion and having a true conversation with facts,
hmm
that is what changes the world. When you hold back information from the public, or you expound all this propaganda, uh,
hmm
you know, without listening to another side or allowing the people in the country to listen to another side, that's where the biggest divisions really happened. And that's why, even in this country, you see the division that's happened or is happening now.
hmm
And that's a lot because people perceive some people in a certain way, and people don't talk to each other without having some preconceived notion
hmm
or some type of, if you're black, you're this way, if you're white, you're this way. And, you
right.
know, people are people. And that's one of the things when you go back and you look at how things were in Cuba back, and that's why I love sports,
Hmm.
because sports really, it comes back to being almost a section of really reality. And
hmm
when you look at how sports was here in this country compared to other countries like Cuba, for example, and I'll use Cuba, and the same thing happened even in Canada, where black and whites played together in
hmm
baseball. Jackie Robinson played in Canada, in Montreal. You
hmm
know, Minnie Minoso played
Minosa.
in
Yeah.
Cuba, played in Cuba, played in the United States, but he played in Cuba with white players in Cuba.
Right.
You know, and so did all of these guys. And one of the things that I hear very often when you read books or you listen to some of these black players like the Buck O'Neills of the world, who's probably one of the most knowledgeable black um, players about the Negro Leagues. You know, Buck O'Neill said they'd love to go play in Cuba because they felt like they were true human beings there. They could stay in the most fanciest, ritziest hotels right next to the white people. They were treated like movie stars, like some of the famous people, no matter whether they were black or white. They felt just like they fit in. And they actually made more money playing in Cuba than they did in the United States because the blacks and whites in Cuba were paid the same. They were paid based on your skills, you know, and they were played together. And they grew up together, you know. I mean, the stories that that I hear from my mom and my dad and things like that, you know, the black and white were friends. And just my mom, my wife's grandmother was black, and that's the way it was in Cuba. We didn't. It was, you know, I didn't remember that in Cuba, but you could see it in how sports was reflected in that time, and the stories that I hear from my family and from parents and from other people that, you know, were in those racially divisive times here in the United States, but in other countries it was totally different. In Mexico, you know, again, the Negro Leaguers went down there and they played in Mexico with the white players, and it was great. I mean, you're talking in the 30s, 40s, and 20s, you know, and you know, it's just funny how, you know, how things are so different in other countries, but we're all people and we're all the same people. You know, whether we are living in Cuba or I'm living here, I'm the same person, you know, and it's just, you know, I just wish that people would just open their minds and talk a little bit more versus just looking at stereotypes and just talking about a person, whether they're, you know, whatever color or whatever. I mean, you know, you just got, you know, that, you know, fortunately, and you see that too much in the news nowadays, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
it's really insidious because, you know, I care as much about someone's shoe size as I do the color of their skin, but it seems that more and more these days that's becoming more of an issue. But
yeah, it's just they become, you know, incest with the racial
yeah,
divisions that really shouldn't exist. And as human beings, we don't have that in our hearts or in our
no,
minds. You know, we were not made racist.
we
We are
don't.
not, you know, in our hearts. I don't believe, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say everybody, but 99.9% of the people in this world are not racist and don't want to be racist and don't intend to be racist and don't really, you know, but it's just, I think it's overblown.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, good subject, but just switching
We're
gears.
talking baseball and
Yeah,
other
no,
stuff.
did
I don't know.
well,
We're
I was
talking every.
talking, did you have anything to show? Did you handy to show? If not, that's fine. Okay.
No, not really. I think I've shown a
Okay.
lot of stuff. You know,
Yeah. You can see a lot of Orlando's
I, I,
items.
I got cards here if you want to see, but mainly the kind of stuff that I'll show something. I guess some of, you know, the stuff that I collect. Of course, you know, my Cuban players,
Yep.
like my mini Minosos,
Yep.
you know, and some you know, pre-war stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
camera cards and uh, Cuban cards like this. This is a 1926 Aguilitas
Mm,
card, and that is Adolfo Luque.
nice.
You know, so that's the kind of stuff you're going to see on my channel. Plus, you'll see, you know, some, you know, pre-war from Grover
Yeah.
Cleveland, Alexander, and you'll see some 50s. And here's my mini Mignoso. I always love to show that autograph, my favorite autograph card
Nice.
of
That is
Mignoso.
nice.
And so I'll show a little bit of everything, you know,
Yep.
and some T206 cards, of course,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
war and some 1800s cards like
Yeah.
you know, like this, you know,
It's
an old
amazing.
football.
Yale, the Y
Yeah,
of Yale on
the
there.
Yale,
Yeah.
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 So that's the kind of stuff I
Yeah.
have in my, I'll share in my channel, you know.
Well, growing up in Minnesota, following the Twins, I don't know if it was my first major league ball game I ever went to, but my dad took me to the old Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, and I forget who the Twins were playing. It doesn't really matter, but before the game, I bought a program and I had one of those little tiny little pencils, and I wanted to see if I could get some autographs. So my dad, before the game, took me to the Twins dugout, and Tony Oliva was signing a bunch of autographs, but there was two or three deep of fans. So I just waited and waited, and I think he was about to get to me, and then all of a sudden the usher or someone said, "Oh,
Oh,
that's it. We're starting the game." So I missed it by just a fraction. So I kind of carried that with me. But my wife was in a thrift store a couple weeks ago, and she called me at work and said, "Hey, they've got this, and I'll show you this
oh,
Tony
beautiful.
Oliva, and it's autographed." And I think she said it was $10. And I said, "Well, is it a facsimile?" And she goes, "Well, I don't think so because it bled through on the back. So I
Yeah,
think it's real."
it's real. It's
So
real.
so yeah, so kind of in honor of you, Orlando, I thought I'd show you this
Thank you.
Tony the
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I caught him at the end of his career, but injuries kind of cut his career short. But I was happy that he was able to get into the Hall of Fame through the Veterans Committee.
Yeah.
So
He was
much
a great,
deserved. Oh,
great hitter. Great hitter.
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you. You had mentioned you've watched spring training games, and of course, now that the Florida Marlins have a major league, have you ever been to any other states and any other ballparks and another for other teams or?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been to a few. Um, well, I mean, the Panthers are here. I mean, you've got the Florida Panthers hockey team, which
right.
is really big. They're right down the street from my house here, because I live in more Broward County. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've been to that stadium there. Of course, I've been to the stadiums here. They used to have the Orange Bowl. I used to go to all the games there. The new Marlin Stadium. I've been to in Tampa when I lived in Tampa. I've been to the Raymond James Stadium, well, the football stadium there with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I've been to a lot of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Tropicana Field where the first game, actually, I went to the first game that the Tampa Bay the Devil Rays, they were called the Devil Rays back in the
Right,
day.
right.
So when the
Tropicana.
Tropicana. So
Yeah.
I went to their first game. I
Mm-hmm.
went to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I went to their
Okay.
first game at at the stadium, and I went to their first game, which was at the fairgrounds. It was in
Oh,
where they have the county fair.
oh
They
wow.
literally put a little stadium, a little hockey rink there. They played games there. The Tampa Bay
Amazing.
Lightning, yeah.
Amazing.
I've been to the Miami Heat, the Heat Arena. See
Yeah.
the Miami Heat play a
Okay.
bunch of times there.
Okay.
I've been to the Orlando Arena to see the
Mm-hmm.
Orlando Magic play over there also.
Mm-hmm. Which,
I've
by the
been
way,
to,
Hugo, I think works security for that Orlando arena. So you may have
yeah,
not knowingly saw him, but
right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been to a lot of the spring training parks when I went to spring training.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, down here, I used to take my kids to spring training, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting Frank Thomas autograph, the White Sox, and
Yeah.
the Reds, and the Cardinals also play over here, St. Pete, and a bunch of other teams used to still play, and down
Mm-hmm.
in Fort Myers and Bradenton. A lot of
Yeah.
the teams play there. That's where
Yeah.
Liam goes to a lot of those games there. So I'm
Right.
going to try to meet up with Liam and Joe and
Oh,
his
that would be
family
awesome. That would
and
be
see if I
great.
can go. Yeah, we talked about that. See if I can
Yeah.
hook up with
I
them and
would
meet them.
too. I would like to do that too.
Yeah, the
Because my
Pirates
mother,
are there. Yeah.
yeah, my mother lives in Sarasota. So that's why I was down there when I met up with Hugo. and his wife and his son. And yeah, maybe because well, we go to Ed Smith in Sarasota a lot, but I've been to the Bradenton one. That's a beautiful park. But yeah, no, that would be awesome. But and that's great. But have you ever been to outside of Florida, like Fenway?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, you
No,
have?
I've
Okay.
never been to Fenway. But I went to
Yankee Stadium?
to Yankee Stadium.
Oh,
I
the
went to
old one?
the first game at
Oh,
New Yankee
okay.
Stadium. The
Okay.
first game ever.
Yeah, you were there.
I had tickets to go there, and we went there, and the game was rained out.
Oh
The
my
first game was
goodness.
rained
You
out. I
mean they
still have
should have built a retractable?
yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
They played the next day actually, but
Right,
yeah.
right.
So I've been there. I've been to the stadium out on the right on the bay, right up there to see
Oh,
the Giants play.
oh, that's a nice. Or
Yeah,
the newer one or the Candlestick?
the Candlestick. I went to
I heard it
Candlestick,
was
the
very
old one.
windy and
Windy and
rough.
freeze my butt off over there, man. It was so cold.
Yeah.
And even when you got there, it was about 70 degrees. You felt, oh, that's not going to be too bad.
No.
But once you get in the stadium and
Yeah.
it gets dark, and oh man, it probably felt like 40 degrees in the stadium.
Wow.
I've been to San Diego also.
Okay.
Stadium out there, yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see what else.
The old one.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think that's
So you've been to
about
quite a few.
it. Yeah, I try to go when I go to a city and stuff because I went to Atlanta
Sure.
for the Olympics at one time, and also went to the national when it was in Atlanta.
Well, not to open up a
In the
whole
night.
can of beans, but were you there at the Olympics when the bomb
Yes, I
went off?
was.
Oh my goodness.
I was at that park with my family the day before that bomb went off. That day before, and it went off on the following morning. I
Wow.
was there that evening, and yeah.
Okay. Now, are you married? Or do you have a wife? And
Yeah.
do you travel? Do you two travel or do any?
My wife doesn't travel.
Okay.
She doesn't fly at all. So I can't go anywhere flying with her, but
Okay.
so that's why I'm usually by myself when I go to those places.
Yeah. Have you ever been to
She
Minnesota?
Never been to Minnesota.
No. Well, if you ever come here, we'll go to a game at Target Field. If you ever,
I'd
I don't
love
know,
to.
for whatever reason, just don't come here in January. Even though we did have a pretty mild winter. Have you ever?
Yeah.
You've been in snow, seen snow before?
Twice.
Twice. Okay.
Once when I went to Ohio.
Okay.
And another time when I went to New York.
Okay. So you said that you used to collect baseball cards. Oh, you mentioned your sisters. Do you have any brothers that collect that you were?
No, I have two sisters only, and
okay.
Neither one of them collect cards or anything. My one of my sisters has a little business where she also does antique stuff like that.
Okay.
And so she has a little vintage online store, but and she kind of helps me out because she goes to do a lot of garage sales and things like that, estate sales, and whenever there's cards, she'll go ahead and give me a call.
Yeah, kind of like my wife. Kind of like my wife, you can find things for me.
Yeah,
were they ever, your sisters growing up, ever involved with when like you'd go buy cards or anything? Were they ever into that or
they were into the gum.
The what?
The gum.
The gum?
Yeah.
The gum?
The gum.
That's what you said, the secret word. Oh, wait, here it is.
I said the gum.
Gum.
Yeah.
All right.
I never thought I'd say the magic word.
So you said the gum.
Yeah, because my sisters used to chew that gum like crazy. I don't know if you see one of my videos. I interviewed my sister one time. I did a video where I interviewed my sisters, both of them.
Yes.
And I asked them about their memory of me collecting cards. And their memory was seeing me open the packs and waiting for me to pull out the gum so I would stack up the gums and they would just shove them in their mouth and I'd try to no. Yeah.
That's great. I wonder if that played into any of Topps marketing for the reason they put gum in. They thought, well, if consumer isn't interested in baseball cards, maybe their brother is, and they could eat the gum, and they would encourage them to buy cards. That's great.
But I
So,
wouldn't open the packs of gum or the packs of cards until I got home, so I could split them with my sisters, because my dad always said, you got to split it with your sister.
So you want the Superman?
I want the Superman tag.
Okay, not the Elvis.
No,
not Close Encounters.
That was a close
Superman.
one. It was between Close Encounters and Superman, but I gotta go with the Superman. It's classic.
Well, it's on. We'll get your address. It's on your. It's on. It'll be on its way for a super collector, a super person. Do you have time for a quick lightning round? We'll do quick. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Did you ever watch? It was called Inside the Actors Studio, and it was on cable. I think it was on the Bravo network. But basically, it was a school for actors, and then they would occasionally have, real actors would come and talk to the students. But anyway, at the end of every episode, they would ask 10 questions. And I guess these questions were from some famous French author, professor. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you these questions, so they can be quick, lightning type thing, because we'll be wrapping this up soon.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
So Orlando, what is your favorite word?
Awesome.
Okay. What is your least favorite word? Pass.
You froze on me. I couldn't hear the other thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, we made it this far without tech. What is your least favorite word?
Least favorite word was no.
Okay. Hey, in sales, that's a word that you heard a lot, I'm sure.
You don't want to hear that ever.
Okay. What turns you on creatively, creatively? What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? What turns you on? Creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
My friends.
Okay. What turns you off?
I think the politics.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
I don't try not to curse.
Okay, fair enough. Although I may have heard a couple on one of your last live streams.
I guess the only one I use is SHIT.
Yeah, that's the one I heard.
It's about the only one I will use.
That's the one I heard. Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
when I get a little bit upset.
Yeah, no, that's great. What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter.
Yeah, nice. What sound or noise do you hate?
Screaming. I don't like to be screamed at. I don't like to scream at anybody. I like them low key. Respect. That's great. Treat everybody with respect.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt, or would you have liked to attempt since you're retired?
Oh, that's a good one. I would have always wanted to be a baseball player or sports, because I love sports. I played basketball and baseball and football too. So I guess sports. I would want to be an athlete, which I'm not. I was terrible at pretty much everything.
Fair enough. I always wanted to be a soccer player, but I never got the chance. Or a baseball announcer, I think would have been good too. So my wife says this is a way for myself to, use my sports knowledge and talk sports with other people. So maybe late in life, I'm getting close to what I had wanted to do. What profession would you not have liked to do?
It's the profession that I started doing. It's working at I worked at a bank in the analysis department, working with numbers by myself in a room. And I don't want to do a job like that anymore. I did that I'm a finance major, so I studied finance, numbers and stuff. But after doing that, I got bored. I like being around people,
Right.
and whether it is at work,
Mm-hmm.
not working with numbers and spreadsheets and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth in regards to that. I never been in a cubicle office, and I
No,
respect people that do, but I just now I don't think I could ever do that.
no.
Okay, last one, Orlando. If heaven exists, which I think we both believe it does, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would like God to tell me that I've been a good guy, that I did a great job, and that I, I lived the best life that I possibly could, and I helped as many people as possible. And just a good person, really, overall. It's just being a good person, being a kind person, and helping people. I mean, really, that's what it's all about for me. It's just being someone that's always been honest and truthful, caring, someone that you can talk to, and will
Mm.
tell you the truth and be honest with you. I'll say it. I won't tell you any bullshit. That's the word you wanted to hear
There,
earlier.
there it
You
is.
know, that's
Nice.
just the way I am.
Yeah.
I'll tell it like it is, and I want God to appreciate that. You know what?
Hmm.
You told it like it is, and you were honest with everybody. I mean, I'm not here to insult anybody and stuff, but
Hmm.
if you really want to know my opinion, you're going to hear my opinion.
Yeah.
And but for the most part, I just wanted to be a good person
Mm.
and do good things for the world like everybody else. I think everybody wants the same thing out of life, to just be remembered in a way that people remember you as a person that they love to be friends with, and they
Mm.
enjoyed being with. And I think that it all comes down to just having nobody that can say anything bad about you.
Mm.
I think that's pretty much, and I will say that like I said, I'm in my late 60s.
Hmm.
And Robert, I will say honestly, there's no one, you will not find anybody in this world that will say anything bad about me.
Mm.
And any person I've ever had any arguments with or any issues with, I've gone back and I've talked to these people, and I make sure that there's no hard feelings between
Yeah.
anybody that I've ever met or anybody that I've ever been with. And that's just the way I am. And
Mm.
I know that God is up there. I know that He's watching us right now, and I have this chain that I have with me here.
Mm.
I've had this since I've been 10 years old. I was 10 years old. My grandmother gave me that, fortunately, before she passed away, and
Hmm.
told me that um, as long as I believe in God, as long as I have this, that I will be protected, that nothing will ever happen to me. And she always taught me to be a good person. And I was always told by my mom and my dad
Hmm.
that I would rather you, if you do something wrong that you're ashamed of, I
Hmm.
would rather you be honest and tell me versus lie. So if I ever did something, whatever it was, I mean, let's say take my sister's toy like I did one day and try to flush it down
Hmm.
the toilet when I was a little kid.
Hmm.
And my dad asked me, did you do that? And the first time I lied. I said, no, I didn't do that. And of course I had to admit it. My dad said, you know what? I'm punishing you because you didn't admit it, because you lied to me. If you would have
Hmm.
told me the truth and you would have said, yeah, I flushed it down the toilet because I was upset at her because she did something to me, and that was really the real reason, she tore up one of my things, my dad would have forgiven me, but he punished me because I lied.
Mm.
So that
Yeah.
was my biggest lesson right there, and I never lied to him again, and I
Hmm.
never lied to my mom again,
Hmm.
and that's just the way I live my life.
Yeah.
I would rather just go ahead and be honest and say the truth, or say nothing at all. If I disagree with you or whatever, instead of having an argument, I'd rather just keep my mouth shut and not say anything. But if you want to talk about it and open your mind and really talk,
Hmm.
I'll sit there and I'll talk to you, and I'll share all my opinions honestly and openly.
Right.
If you will share yours, but let's accept them and accept mine and yours. And if we agree to disagree, that's great. You know? But overall, I think that life is too short for us to be, upset at anybody or anything in this world. And I think that, I'm one of these people, I just put it behind me. I don't hold any grudges at all. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me be not hold any stress in my life, because I just, the people that know me and know me well know who I am and what I'm all about. And those are the people that become my close friends. And that's just the way of life. And I think that I know that the Lord is going to accept me up there, because I've done the right thing and for the right people. And then sometimes, Robert, I do things in spite of myself. You do things to help other people that may not be the best thing for you in life personally.
Right.
You sacrifice yourself for other people. And sometimes, you do that. And I'll tell you one thing, and in the long run, good things happen to good people. And that is my number one philosophy in life. And that's what I've found. If you ask me what's your meaning of life, and I think that comes down to that. Good things happen to good people, and good things have happened to me in my life. And I feel it's because I've been good to myself and good to other people and good to people around me. And good things happen to me, And I'm just very lucky that I have a family. Our family's all together. They're all, love each other. There's some families that some people can't talk to the other part of the family, either whether they disagree or whatever it is, And even though in some cases, even in my own family, politically, we disagree. But we love each other so much that doesn't ever, we don't get into that. It's just, all about, being friendly, being the best you can. And just, what you see with me is what you get. And I'll tell it like it is. If you ask me something, I'll and you may not, because people ask me, what do you think, or what should I do? And I don't agree with them, but I try to do it politely and just as saying, this is my opinion. It's what I would do. It's not telling you what to do. It's just what I would do. And I'm going to give you my opinion, not based on what you want me to tell you or what you want to hear, and that's just the way I am.
I can't really add too much to that, Orlando, except to say I appreciate you sacrificing your time to be with me. Appreciate your wisdom, your values, and I think we found, even though you're in demand and you're on a lot of different outlets and channels, I think we found some new ground to cover. So I appreciate you joining me in this edition of Collector's Chat. Where can people find you other than your YouTube channel? Are you on any social media? No, just go to.
Nope. I'm only on YouTube. A Collector's Dream.
A Collector's Dream. Okay.
Yeah. I don't do any social media. I just, I'm just doing this for the fun of it. I'm not gonna have all this Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. It's just more work for me. I need less stress in my life, not more.
I gotcha. Are you going to be on a live tomorrow or?
Oh God, I have a few things scheduled.
Probably.
Darren Return to Collecting has asked me to be on his live stream, so I'm going to probably do something with him. Jeremy Lee has contacted me. He has a live show there also on Friday nights, and sometime in March he wants to interview me. And I'm going to be on a few things here and there. Whenever I'm invited, I say yes. So I'm sure you'll be seeing me on another live stream. The 4 Collectors, I always pop in there every once in a while. And like I said, I pretty much can't say no sometimes.
Yeah. And you and Sammy Thunder recently had your 2,000 subscriber party, and that was great. I appreciate that. Was fun. So Anyway, it's been amazing, Orlando. Stick around. I just got to have closing words, but stick around. I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, that was amazing. My friend Dre Diaz, who, by the way, he and his wife have a great channel, once told me that people's collections are great. Buying and selling in the hobby is great, but the people in this hobby is what makes it great. Regardless of how big or small people's collection are, it's the people. We're in the hobby of making people smile. That's the business we're in. If you enjoyed this episode of Commenters Chat, please tap the like button and share this episode. If you feel this channel is worthy of a subscription and want to help my channel grow, I'd really appreciate it. So, for Orlando of A Collector's Dream, this is Robert, also known as a Commenting Collector, saying, good collecting.